I run into a lot of people from time to time who share with me about the fact that they have regrets regarding their life. They could have been in one and two situations where, first of all, they could have been incarcerated for a long period of time, which we're talking about 10 years or more. Or they could have been in a situation where they struggled with addiction and spent a lot of time in and out the rehab situation, and they spent a lot of time away from their family, struggling with this thing. And like I said, it's happened for 10 years or more. What they wind up doing when they finally get over those hurdles, they fail to realize that it's 10, 15, 20 years later. They don't fully understand that those people and situations that were there before they got involved in that mess that they were in, they may not be around anymore. And some of them have the mentality, and this is where the arrested development part comes in, where they think they could just basically pick up where they left off, and they can't. You have a lot of people that in their mind, they're trying to play catch up. They have the mentality that 2-year-old boy that they left before they did their 15 years, that they can go back to a 17-year-old young man and treat him like he's 2 years old. It's not going to happen. You got people who were married when they went in and came out 25, 30 years later and went back to their spouse who never filed for divorce and think that they could just go right back in the house and everything will be okay. First of all, if it's been that long and they were together, I don't understand the reasoning as to, what was going on as to why they kept the marriage going. It could be a situation where that particular person, during all that time, that spouse was there every week and every visit and was fully supportive. Usually those cases are few and far between, but in most cases it's usually a monetary situation. It's a situation where they're keeping that person as a resource. Because before a person is let go, they have certain conditions that they have to meet before they're released. And usually with their, PO, they have to deal with, they have to let them know what resources they have. They have to be well aware of, who you're going to be around, what kind of conditions are you going to be living in? What kind of financial support are you going to receive? Because they don't want to run the risk of releasing you out into the streets without any support system so you can commit another crime. So it's required that you have these things. So in a lot of cases, some people will remain legally married on paper during that time while they're doing that bid, and their spouse will sign on to it just so they could be able, when they get out, to be able to have resources. The two of them might not wind up living together, but for the sake of legal reasons, the spouse or the husband will remain the spouse or husband until that person gets out from doing their time, be it 5, 10, 15 years, whatever the case may be, so that way that person is able to take care of themselves. And then once they see that that person is on their feet, then they'll go ahead and file for divorce. So they'll do different things for them. They'll go ahead and they'll sign the paperwork so they can get out. They'll go ahead and they'll, co-sign for them to get different things so they could be able to sustain themselves on a basic basis. And then once they see that they've done that, then they'll go ahead and file for divorce. That's the arrangement. That's the understanding that they have. So that's why a lot of people will remain legally married to people. So romance has nothing to do with it. It's more of a way for them to stay together. Am I saying that is right or wrong? I'm not making any judgments because I'm not in that position. Everybody's position is different. I'm just strictly talking about a real situation here. But what happens is, let's say that you had to do 15 years for robbery or whatever the case is. You had to do 15 years for robbery. You were legally married with a small child that was maybe 3 or 4 years old when you went in, and then you come out all these years later. The world has changed. Clock stops for no one just because they have a problem. That's the way it is, and that's the way it's going to be. And you probably have had an idea. You've been brought up to breast as far as the world situation, but as far as your personal situation, you're strictly going by what was told and what was shared to you, and that's not the same as being there. I spoke in a previous audio about how people give third-hand accounts to other people about what's going on in their lives, and come to find out a lot of that information is Either the wrong information or a lot of important information is omitted. And then when all of a sudden people have to deal with that person, things are a little bit different than what they were informed, and that's where the confusion comes in. So this person comes out expecting one situation and goes home to another. That's where conflict comes in, because they're wondering what's going on. They hadn't been around. Now, how they got locked up and the circumstances as to why they committed the crime, I'm not one to make any judgments or anything like that. But, the laws are the laws. There are laws against theft. There are laws against violence. There are laws against rape. There's laws against violent acts. There are laws. Okay? And if apparently your case wasn't strong enough as far as your reason was concerned, to release you, so you had to do the time, and that's all that is to it. You've done your time and it's over with. But the thing is, you got to come back out into the real world and accept the fact that all those people that you left behind all those years ago, they have gotten older, their lives have changed, and you have to understand, you can't just come back in and pick up where you left off on the day before you got locked up. It's not being realistic at all. And some of you will turn around and try to play catch up. I see a lot of that going on. A lot of people who have been in and out of rehab for long periods of time and finally got clean. A lot of people who have been in and out of jail for long periods of time and finally got freed and finally got the message. They finally decided, okay, well, I missed out on this, that, and the other. They start thinking about all the things they missed out on all those years before, and they're just a quick, fast, in a hurry to try to play catch up. And they're so busy doing that they're not being productive. They wind up wasting a lot of time with a lot of people, doing a lot of things that aren't significant to their growth and development. I know some people right now, they're barely making it. And when I mean barely making it. Instead of coming up with a plan where they can develop a fruitful life, furthering their education, starting a business, getting a decent job, getting a good place to stay. Right now you're staying maybe in a room or sharing an apartment, or maybe you're in a neighborhood that's not that great, or something to better your situation. Instead of you spending your time doing that, trying to better your situation, you stay in the same conditions, and all you do is just run around in the street, trying to play catch up on your sex life, trying to play catch up with the baby mamas, trying to play catch up with the kids and catch up with the grandkids. You spend 10 hours of your day running around with your daughter and your son and your grandkids doing stuff with them, when you could spend 10 hours a day trying to build your business, 10 hours a day trying to find a more stable place to stay. I'm not saying not spend any time with them, but you need to organize your time better. All that time that you spent inside, you had a lot of restrictions, but I'm sure that there was some pen and paper somewhere where you can outline a plan of how you were going to live your life before you came out. You didn't have any time during the day to do that. I'm sure there was some time. And that's what happens with a lot of people. So what happens is when they come out here and they realize the world is so different, they don't have the coping skills to deal with the fact that the world is different. Ain't nobody reversing the clock for them. And the people that used to make time for them, if they're still alive, they have moved on with their life, and all of a sudden they want to be relevant. These people don't have time for that. So now they're feeling a certain type of way, and they're developing a negative attitude towards life. You got to understand, if you're in one of these situations, I'm telling you right now, if you're in the process of getting back on your feet because you were addicted or because you were incarcerated and you couldn't interact with reality for a long period of time, do not have it in your mind that you're going to play catch up, because it's not happening. Get that out of your head. Get it out of your head. Don't think you can go back to the old stuff that you dealt with before you got into the situation that you're in and just pick up where you left off. Ain't no such animal. I don't care what anybody says to you. Ain't no such animal. Okay? And what you need to do is go ahead and just outline the steps that you're going to do to rebuild a new life for yourself and live a new life when you come out. Make the connections that you need to make, but you need to accept the fact that that 3-year-old girl that you left with your baby mama 15 years ago is now a grown-ass woman and probably has children or probably has a life of her own. You can't go back to her and pop up and say that your mama or daddy and turn around and try to treat them like they're 3 years old. Shit ain't happening. They're grown now. They're grown. And I know this is a bitter pill to swallow, but I see a lot of people in these situations. They come out with these attitudes, playing helicopter mama and helicopter daddy all of a sudden, and they've been gone all this time. I know because I have been in that situation, and one thing I did not do, I saw people in situations that tried to do that, and I told myself I wasn't going to do it, so when I did pull myself together, I didn't play that game. Because you're asking to get your feelings hurt and you're asking to lose the ones you love. Accept the fact that it is what it is. Time is what it is. You cannot go back and get back that time that you lost. It's done. It's over with. You went through it. It's over with. But accept the fact that this time is what it is. You are 10, 15 years older, and so is everybody else in your world. And they had to move on without you with what they had, regardless of what the circumstances was. You can't reach back. So the best thing for you to do is, first of all, assess and accept the situation for what it is and show respect accordingly. And you can't get caught up on lost time. If you were 40 years old when you first got locked out and you come locked up and you come out at 50 or 55, you can't be running around here like you 40. And surrounding yourself with younger people is not going to help the fact that you got gray hairs and wrinkles and you got to take medication every morning because you probably got a health condition. No, you can't. Build a life for yourself from this point forward, and think about the fact that the past is the past and it's done and over with. Make your amends if you can and keep it moving. And if you got people that want to sit there and they want to talk about how you didn't do this and how you didn't do that and want to talk about the past, look, you've already suffered all your time. You've made your amends with your creator, and you've tried to make amendments with the people in your life. Those type of people you don't need to have in your life. You did without them for 10 or 15 years. You don't need their asses now. I'm saying this as a word of encouragement, people, because there are a lot of you that are trying to play catch up and it's killing you. You don't know what the hell you're doing. You can't go back. Shit ain't happening. So try to figure out a way to have a productive future with the people that you have in your life, and you'll be all right. Just saying. Thank you for joining me today, but the trail is not over because your final step is to click the subscribe button and to hit the notification bell to be advised of new videos every single week. Until then, peace and love.